y'all may want to take notes, but don't, I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. Don't get busy taking notes and miss what I'm saying, okay? So first of all, I want you to think, whenever you hear the word brand, what is it that you think of? Do you think of a specific company or a logo or an obnoxious TV show with a whole bunch of women like the Kardashians? Well, Webster's defines a brand as a class of goods identified by name as the product of a single firm or manufacturer, or a character of or distinctive kind. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. You ultimately are your own brand. Now, we are Plexus ambassadors, so we all have that in common. And ultimately, there's about 300 and some odd thousand Plexus ambassadors right now. So we have got to figure out what's going to separate us. And not only that, Plexus is not going to be your whole entire life. So a certain portion of your brand that you're building is going to be Plexus, yes, but your whole entire everything is not going to be all Plexus. So we've got to figure out, what kind of image do you want your brand to convey? All right, so before you start thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't do this because my brand's going to suck, then we need to talk, because I don't like my people that I care about, that I believe in, talking to themselves like that. And second, there's really no such thing as a bad brand. There are weak brands and there are strong brands. Now, a weak brand is one that is really hard to capture. It sends a confusing message. It's hard to really get a hold and form an opinion on that brand. A strong brand has a permanent and consistent message. It's reliable and it's easy to form an opinion on. So let's look at a couple of brands, a couple of strong brands. Again, strong does not necessarily mean good. You've got people like Oprah and Beyonce and Kim Kardashian, that whole Kardashian clan, Donald Trump. Whether you like their brand or not, it's a strong brand. So, and they all have that in common because of their brand. They're very influential. Whether you like them or not, they pose a big influence on a lot of people. So what makes a strong brand a strong brand? You've got themes, visuals, and opinions. Okay, so you're going to want to think about a few themes that when people think of, that you want them to think of your brand. So you've got things like adjectives like sassy, cute, fluffy. I want mine to be comforting and encouraging. That's the kind of brand I want to build for myself. And also pick a few visuals. Like I said, with being a Plexus ambassador, yes, we want people to think of us whenever they hear the word Plexus, but at the same time, that's not my whole entire life. I mean, my brand is, I've got a blog going, I've got my kids, I've got my family, and my favorite color, one of the visuals that I prefer, obviously is going to be my kids, but my favorite color is teal and black, and if you throw a chevron print in there, I'm all for it. So I'll show you my whole little setup over here, black and teal. So that's one of my visuals that I'm working on incorporating into my brand. Opinions. Now, opinions are actually a little on the more hard side because this can get a little controversial sometimes depending on, and we'll get into this part of it later, but we're judgmental people. And people, whenever you start building your brand, people are going to make opinions about your brand. So what kind of opinions is it that you want them to form about you and your brand? Would it be that you love God, obviously, and we love Plexus, obviously, but I know with mine, I want it to be, I love on people and I encourage people. That's not necessarily to say that's what yours is going to look like, and that's not what they all look like, but that's what I want mine. So what kind of opinions do you want people to form about you? Now, building an audience that loves you. That's another thing that we've got to work on. So what is it that makes an audience love you? Authenticity, vulnerability, and rebelliousness. All right, authenticity, you're going to hear this word a lot. Just about every Plexus training I've ever been at, the terms be authentic has been used. So authenticity, it's one thing to say you're authentic, it's a whole nother thing to actually be authentic. Authenticity is when people actually view you as a real person. Right? Personal branding needs to feel authentic so people, in order for people to care about you. People ultimately, I've heard this saying at convention, and it really rang true, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So by showing that authenticity, then they'll feel comfortable in that you actually care about them. That's separately. And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to build a brand, that are trying to do the same thing that we're trying to do. So the best way to stand out from them is to be yourself. Be 100% you, right? Because there's nobody else out there like you. On a side note, there is a book on Amazon called Outrageous Authenticity by Lee Brown. She is a pretty awesome author. She's actually a real estate agent, I believe. I don't remember. But I got it on Audible. She has the cutest little voice ever. So get that if you're having a hard time with this part of it. And then vulnerability. Now, I personally am not a Beyonce fan. I'll be very honest there. But she put out an album a long time ago, her self-titled album, where she opened up about her fears and her jealousy. And a lot of people liked it and a lot of people didn't. So it really doesn't matter what we felt about it. It matters is that she did it, because the thing about personal branding is sometimes you're going to have to put those intimate areas of your life and your world and your feelings out there, and it lets people know that you're not perfect, that you understand you're not perfect, and it can be a really healing experience for somebody. Oh, hang on. Let me mute you. Okay. It can be a really healing experience for somebody to watch a leader explain their story of pain and embarrassment, or a time that they were just really insecure. That can really help a person relate to you. And rebelliousness. Now, this is one I've struggled with for 29 years. It took me until here not long ago to actually get this in my head. Okay. Let me start by saying I do believe you can do this. I believe you can do anything and anything you set your mind to, as long as you don't give up on yourself. However, there's one thing that's completely impossible. Just let it go now. You're not going to be able to please everybody. That's where rebelliousness comes into. Every strong brand has an opinion or two that's going to ruffle a few feathers. Okay, and that's okay. Ultimately, a lot of people fail at building their brand because they're worried about people not liking them and worried about upsetting people and stepping on people's toes. And you know what? At some point, you've got to understand that it's going to happen. So forget about trying to make everybody like you. Forget about trying to please everyone, and be proud of yourself and proud of your opinions and who you are. And ultimately, you're going to attract people who really admire you for being brave enough to be yourself and to express yourself. And this really gives people courage. And with that courage, you're going to be able to empower so many people. So don't worry about pleasing everybody. Don't worry about somebody not liking you. Build relationships and state your opinions, and if they don't like you, then they don't like you. That's okay. If they don't want to be a part of your business, a part of your brand, a part of your audience, that's okay, because there's somebody else that will, and there's somebody else that you're going to get along with a lot better. Okay. And I've got a checklist. It's got a few things where you can go and implement these things. It's got 7 days. You're going to complete one of these tasks on your social media, and check to see how your engagement goes after this. And I actually started this yesterday, so it went pretty well. But for your authenticity, you're going to tell your social media audience one thing about you that you think is kind of weird. I know mine, I posted that little picture and talked about how I like weird smells. Yeah, that was me. That actually went really well. So the next one is to tell your audience about a not famous person who you're proud of, who's had a lot of influence on you. And then another one is to tell about a famous person who's had a lot of influence on you. That's your authenticity. Now, your vulnerability is to tell your audience about a time where you were scared. I know with mine it'll be about, I had a car wreck when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, scariest day of my life. We're fine, everybody was fine, but it was still a very, very scary day for me. And also you're going to tell people about one of your most transformational experiences. It could be a breakup or moving or quitting your job or starting a new job, something like that. Just something where you really transformed in your life. Rebelliousness. Okay. Tell your audience about an opinion you have, whether it be something in the health world, something to do with media. I personally, this study that I did said politics. I do not discuss politics on my Facebook page, on any of my social media pages, just because my preference. I'm not educated enough to hold a conversation about it, and I don't want the drama on my Facebook. That's just me. If you're comfortable talking about politics or posting about politics on your Facebook or on your Instagram, Twitter, go right on ahead. I just don't. I don't want that on my social media pages. And also tell your audience about something that you really wish you could change. Okay? Now, your personal life and your personal brand. So the number one thing that stops people from really pursuing their branding is fear. So are you thinking right now, what if I share too much? Or what if I don't share enough? Or what am I going to share? All right. So most people are afraid of starting this just because they're afraid of people not liking them, or they're uncomfortable with sharing about their personal life. Well, let's weed out a few things that are too personal, okay? Let's get the excess personal out of your personal brand. So an example of something too personal would be like a crisis while it's happening. And I can tell you, we almost had this happen yesterday in my family. I got a call from my sister, frantic, because this is what she said to me. Uncle Richard went to the hospital. He had chest pains. They're care flighting him to Presby in Dallas. My first immediate reaction was, crap, tell Facebook, prayer warriors, all this other stuff. Come to find out, and this is why I say, don't post a crisis while it's happening, because come to find out, it was a miscommunication. Yes, he had a heart attack, but he was still at the hospital. He was fine. He was stable. It was a miscommunication between my cousin and a nurse. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. But if I had done that, ultimately, the reason they say not to do this is because when you're building a brand, you're a leader. So you want your statements to come off as professional and consistent. Whenever you post a crisis while it's happening, it comes off as either emotionally unstable or as dramatic. Now, that would have been very dramatic considering my uncle was still in a hospital bed, completely fine. So, just don't do that. Now, when it's okay to post about a crisis is afterwards, okay? After it's already been dealt with and it's closed and you're moving on from it. I still haven't posted that about my uncle yesterday, but it's not mine to post, but still. We talked about how important it is to be vulnerable. So when you share about a crisis, do it after the fact so people can see how you moved on from it, how you dealt with it, and it can really help your audience connect with you whenever they see how you handled it and how you're doing afterwards. Another example of too personal would be the study I did on this said negatively name dropping people in your social circle. I'm going to take that a step further, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I'm going to take that a step further and say don't talk negatively about anybody on your social feeds, because we all have problems with people at some point, and at some point, whenever that does happen, the best thing to do is go to them directly instead of talking bad about them on social media. I have a girl that I'm friends with on Facebook who is a Plexus ambassador, and her social media, her news feed is public. So everything she posts, anybody can see. She has talked so bad about her upline and her team and also her stuff. So ultimately, if I'm seeing this as not an ambassador yet, my first thing is I'm not going to go work for this company because of the way she talks about people. I'm not going to join her team because of the way she talks about people. You got to think about how people are going to see that whenever you start talking bad about somebody. Just don't do it. It comes off as immature and unprofessional. If you have to call out something on somebody. Call out the behavior, not the person. I really don't know that I 100% agree with this, but it's said to call out the behavior because somebody could ultimately connect with you over it. And then another example of too personal is playing the victim. Now we've got quite a few people on our feeds that I know I have somebody on mine that's done this, and I'll be very honest and truthful that I used to do this when I was a few years younger, and every time those pop up on my memory feeds, it just irritates the mess out of me. But playing the victim, whenever you see somebody that's, oh, poor pitiful me, and I can't do anything right, it just looks so bad whenever you're trying to build a brand. Don't do that. So, moving on, I digress. Not all brands are the same. Okay, the beauty of building your own brand is that it's yours. You get to choose what you put into it. You get to choose what you include. Just because somebody else includes their family and their kids and their dogs and theirs doesn't mean that you have to. Or if they include their finances, doesn't mean you have to. You get to find the sweet spot between what you're comfortable sharing and what is relevant for your audience. Okay, and some examples of that are going to be things like your spouse, your family, children, pets, your morning and night routine, your political stance, or philosophical opinions, how you decorate your house, your workout routines, how you're eating, things like that. Remember, this is your brand. You get to decide on what you're doing. And also, becoming popular on social media. Now, this is kind of a big deal. I have recently branched out into Instagram, and I'm still working on Twitter. I'm just not there yet. I don't like it, but we're going to get there one day. So getting popular on social media is going to be a huge, huge, huge step for building your brand, building your business, okay? So how do we do that? In order to do that, you need to be different. You need to be valuable, okay? Be different. Don't let this part of it go in one ear and in one ear and out the other, okay? We're all here trying to do this, so you've got to make yourself stand out. Now, granted, none of us have the completely same set of friends, so obviously you're going to stand out to some people, but you've got to engage those people. I'm not going to get into the algorithms and whatnots of Facebook, but they're not going to see your posts unless Facebook or Instagram thinks that y'all are friends. You know, the more interaction you have, the better, because then you're going to be more likely to pop up on their newsfeed. But ultimately, we're all here trying to do ultimately the same thing. So don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to be you. All right. If you want to win, you can't be afraid to stand out. All right. Be valuable. This one. I hate to break it to you, but building a brand isn't really about you. It's not really about you. It's about your audience. It's about the viewer. Okay. This is where a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs really fall on their face, is because we tend to show content that's more about us and more geared towards what we want to see. And I can say that I'm guilty. I've done that before. So it kind of throws off the viewer. A reason a person follows you is because of what's in it for them. They want something that's going to benefit them, not you. Okay. When it comes to social media, the most engaging content is FIE content. These are things that are funny, inspirational, and educational. Truthfully, if you can make them laugh, inspire them, and teach them something, you're going to have a very, very valuable branding presence. Okay. And this also talked a lot about being trendy. Now, I'm not a trendy person. That would be my sister. So I'm not going to go into a whole huge detail about this, because this is just not my aspect. This is not my area of expertise. But it did make a good point, and it said, if you want to stay on top of social media and what's current, you'll stay on top of the trends. I fail at that. Just going to be honest. Apparently, you're missing out on attracting new followers. I'm okay with that because I'm just not. That's not one area that I excel in, and I'm okay with it. Um, Ultimately, you want to make yourself visible. Okay, make yourself visible. Build these connections. Build these relationships because that's what we're in the business of people. Yes, we're a product driven company, but we're in the business of people. Okay, we're going to help them either feel better or get financially free, whatever it is that they want. So get out there, be bold, be passionate, be unapologetic, and be authentic. I know I've said that before, but be authentic. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.